And with that, I'm excited to introduce two expert presenters from Arcserve, Mr. Stacy Budd. He's a principal pre-sales consultant, and Mr. Keith Summers. He is a product manager of Arcserve UDP Cloud Direct. Are you there, Keith and Stacy?
Yeah, this is Stacy. I'm here for sure.
This is Keith. I'm here as well.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us. Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. Today we're going to talk about our exciting Cloud Direct approach. Keith Summers is going to speak the majority of that. I'm going to kick it off, talk a little bit about our cloud overview, and then also about the company in whole. When we take a look at Arcserve, if you're not familiar with Arcserve, we've been in the business for a very, very long time, right? So 27 years, I think it is. And, you know, worldwide presence as far as that goes. We have a presence in backup software, backup appliances, and we can even offer a number of cloud options, either backing up data that's in the cloud or backing up data to the cloud as far as that goes. When we take a look at those cloud capabilities, when you look at first our hybrid cloud approach, this is an approach where we have a server up in the cloud that we're backing up to. We're doing an on-prem first backup with this. It gives you the ability as organizations to first do that local backup and that local restore in case you need to do that, and have that fast restore capabilities from that perspective, as well as sending data off, when it sends data from local to the cloud, taking advantages of things like data deduplication, so we're utilizing less bandwidth in order to do that. Keith Summers is here to talk about our Arcserve Cloud Direct product, which we just announced a few weeks ago. This product, fantastic product, is that direct-to-cloud solution where we can go through and not have to have any type of architecture or any type of infrastructure on the client side and be able to back up directly to the cloud. So that's enough of me talking about it. What I'm going to do is hand it over to Keith and let him tell you about the Cloud Direct product.
All right. Thanks, Stacy. And hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. So I just want to talk about the Arcserve UDP Cloud Direct solution portfolio. We have two offerings in this portfolio. First of which is the backup as a service solution. This is a solution where we enable customers to back up their data from their on-premise environment directly to the cloud. And then once in the cloud, they're able to use a web-based management portal to browse that data. And then if necessary, using that same portal, they can restore that data from the cloud back to their on-premise environment. The other offering is a complement to the backup as a service, and that's our disaster recovery as a service solution. Now, this solution, similarly, when you're backing up servers or virtual machine images, you back those up to our cloud, and using that same management portal, one portal manages both of these offerings, you're able to spin up virtual instances of those protected systems in the cloud in the amount of time that it would take for the operating system to boot up. So that's along the lines of the RTO. For in the event of a disaster, you can, or if you need to do any DR testing in the cloud, you're able to do that as well with the disaster recovery as a solution offering. A few key features for the backup as a service offering, as Stacy mentioned, is direct to cloud, so there's no need for an on-premise hardware appliance to first back up to. Data is sent from the on-prem environment directly to the cloud. There is built-in WAN optimization into the backup agent that's used, so it provides the ability to move lots of data very quickly. There's also a local option if you want to keep a local copy, but the solution was designed to go from on-prem directly into the cloud. Security and data integrity are very key. Data is encrypted in flight as well as at rest in the data center. Also, the management portal, the web-based management portal supports Google two-factor authentication for those who need additional security. And there's also things that are done in our data center on the back end to ensure that data integrity, to make sure that there's no changes in the data that has been sent to us and is being stored by us. To provide relatively global access, we have this web-based management console or management portal that is accessible using the major web browsers. So as long as you have access to a web browser, you're able to access, administer, and manage your protected environment. We offer multiple recovery options, so you can mount a recovery point as a network drive. In some instances, you can restore a file, you can restore folders, you can also restore entire system images from the cloud back to your on-premise environment. So you have multiple options in which you need to recover. And also the comprehensive data protection, where we give you the option to protect. If you only want to protect files, you can do so, folders, application data such as SQL and Exchange, all the way up to a Windows system image or virtual machine image. A bit about the features for the disaster recovery offering. It is meant to be a push button, so once again we protect Windows images as well as virtual machine images. They're protected in the cloud, and with the push of a button, you're able to boot up a virtual instance of that system in about the time that it takes for the operating system to boot up. We do periodic DR testing. We will periodically boot up the virtual instance to provide that level of confidence that indeed the system is recoverable, and take a screenshot of the login screen. I can show you that in a demo. It was designed to be extremely scalable, so as your needs scale, we can scale with you. We wanted to give the capabilities around backup, as well as the ability to fail over and run in our cloud in the event of a disaster. And then once the on-premise environment has been restored or been recovered, you can fail back those virtual systems that are running in the cloud back to your on-premise environment. AD is important for authentication and authorization to access the recovered systems. So we have the ability to have you run an Active Directory server in our virtual data center that's provisioned for you when you subscribe to the Disaster Recovery as a Service solution to protect both your physical as well as your virtual servers. And this, as I mentioned, is all done because we provide you with a virtual data center that gives you the networking, gives you the firewall, and gives you the compute resources that you need to recover your environment in the cloud. So with that, I'd actually like to take you through a demo of the product. Sometimes seeing PowerPoints are great, but actually seeing the product live can be even better. So let me do that. Now this is live, so we're going to go with the screen share approach. Let's see, and I will hit play, and hopefully everyone is able to see my management portal. This is the management portal view that you would see when you have access to the product. Here, I would simply log in. As I mentioned, the portal supports two-factor authentication for additional security if needed. I simply sign in. And when I sign in, I get a list of the systems that are being protected. The systems can be protected. We protect physical as well as virtual systems. So the physical systems that are protected, we use a replication agent or a backup agent that is deployed, lightweight solution that's deployed directly onto the system. And as you can see, once it's deployed, those systems will appear here under your Systems tab in the portal. You can get an idea of the operating system, the last time it was backed up, how long it took to give you an idea. Backups can be started manually by simply clicking this button, or they can be scheduled, and I'll go into that. Here you can see Enable for Disaster Recovery. When one downloads the backup agent and deploys it, they have backup as a service. In other words, they're able to back up their data from on-prem into the cloud. Now, if they want the disaster recovery capabilities, they let us know. We provision a disaster recovery or a virtual data center on the back end for them. And then once they have that, and once the appropriate backup task is configured, then they will see this Enable for Disaster Recovery. So let's talk a bit about the backup task that I just mentioned. So when the agent is deployed, you come in here to configure, and you're able to go down here to create the backup task. As you can see here, I already have a backup task to say, hey, back up this entire Windows image. And because I'm backing up this entire Windows image, I will have I have the disaster recovery subscription, then I'm also able to enable this for disaster recovery. But if we want to take a look, here's an idea of some of the other backup tasks that I can create. I could do a system backup, files or folders, SQL or Exchange data, as well as Hyper-V virtual machine disk images. As I mentioned, you're able to do scheduling of the backups. You're also able to set throttles so as to control how much of the bandwidth that you're using to back up your environment. Here you can also see the status of previous backup jobs. So in the past, this backup job has been running quite consistently and has been completed successfully. If I needed to restore any of the data, once again, through this management portal, I come in here, I click this, I click the task that's being backed up, and I can either click the current, choose the current, or I can go further back in time. And if I want to, I can restore the entire recovery point, or I can go in here and click the browse button, and then I have a file browser that I can navigate through and either download the entire image or download a file or folder from this image. I'll go back to the Systems tab. As I mentioned, we support both physical and virtual machines or servers. So as you can see here, these are systems that are being protected by our virtual appliance for VMware. So if you have a VMware environment, you can deploy a virtual appliance that we make available. Once that's deployed, it communicates with your vCenter server and discovers your virtual machines. And then if you want to protect any of the virtual machines in that environment, then you simply enable the disaster recovery or enable backups for those virtual machines. So you would come up here, you would go to your virtualization tab. And as you see here is my virtual appliance that has been deployed in my VMware environment. It is communicating with my vCenter server, and these are all of the virtual machines that it has discovered. And if I want to protect any of them, I simply hit Enable Backup. And as you can see, this is already enabled for backup. So if I want to disable backups, I can simply hit Disable Backups. Now, when I hit Enable Backup, that indicates that I want to protect that virtual machine. And once I hit that, those virtual machines that are being protected will appear once again on your Systems tab, and they will appear down here with the notation of a virtual machine. Now, whether that virtual machine is running Windows or Linux, we're able to protect that entire virtual machine. And that's why you will see that it does indeed have Enable for disaster recovery. So a bit about enabling disaster recovery, I simply hit Enable Disaster Recovery. I specify how much RAM that I want this machine or the virtual instance of this machine to have in the cloud. And I simply optionally also specify any Windows licenses. And then I simply hit Save. When I do this, the indicator goes from Enable Disaster Recovery to this indication that it has been enabled for disaster recovery. Now, once it's enabled for disaster recovery, I come back up here, and then I simply go to my Disaster Recovery tab, where I will see all of the machines that I'm protecting using disaster recovery. So if you have a hybrid environment where there's some systems that you only want to protect files and folders, or you only want to do backup, you have that option. And there's some systems that you may wish to recover from a DR perspective. You have that option all within the same single portal. Now here you can see I have two virtual machines or two machines that I'm protecting. And if I wanted to boot this system up in the cloud, I simply hit the Activate button. And it asks me which recovery point that I wish to use as my base system to boot from. I'll select the latest one, and then I'll just simply hit Activate while that's coming up. I will go up here and describe. So once it's booted up, we have, once you're recovered your environment in the cloud, an important piece that sometimes is ignored is the ability to connect and access that system that has been recovered in the cloud. So what you're able to do is you're able to set up a point-to-site VPN connection. So if you're in the coffee shop and you want to access the system, you're able to do that. We also enable customers to deploy a virtual machine on their on-premise environment that will allow them to establish a site-to-site VPN connection. Right? So if they want the systems on-prem to communicate with the systems that they've recovered in the cloud, like in the event of a partial outage, then that's a possibility as well. And then you could see here, you could set up network port forwarding options. And then, as you can see, this system is still booting. This is an indication of how much RAM has been provisioned for my virtual data center. And while that continues to boot, because that is a Windows system, I will also show you this as well. As I mentioned, periodically we will boot the protected server or the protected system, and then take a screenshot to kind of give that warm, fuzzy feeling that it is indeed possible to boot the system up in the cloud. Some other things about reports. You do have the ability to do some reporting. We send out a daily digest of all of your protected environments to kind of give you in a one single view of the status of all those, the backups that have taken. You can specify backup alerts, and then you can create multiple instances of these. You can create a backup task on demand, or it can be scheduled by simply adding a report. You can send it to folks that have access to the management portal, or you can send it to external users. You can have the report encompass all of your systems, or simply a select few systems that you want to report on. Now, let me go back to the disaster recovery, and that system should be up and running by now. And yes, it is. It is up and running. And so once the system is up and running, it's given an IP address in your virtual data center. You can power it on, and once it's running, you can actually create you can establish a remote desktop connection directly to this system. And then once it's been running in the cloud and you want to fail back to your on-premise environment, you can just simply hit Start Failback. So that's a high-level overview. This management portal handles both the backup and disaster recovery solutions, all in one environment. And so with that, I would like to stop the screen share and return back to the slides. And I guess we can open it up for question and answers at this point.
Awesome. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Keith and Stacy. So, yeah, we have quite a few questions here from the audience. If you are out there in the audience and you have a question, now's the time to ask it for Arcserve. So let's see, I've been lining up the questions here in the queue for you. First question that came in here is, how do you validate backups?
So on the backups, on the back end, we scan through, we capture it, we send it up to the cloud, and then periodically we scan through, we hash it. There is a hash that is taking of the data, and we periodically run through and rehash and go back through and ensure that the hash has not changed. And so that's one way of validating that what we backed up on day one is still available when you go back in time to restore that data back to your on-premise environment.
Okay, got it. Another question that came in here, they're asking, can it protect Citrix environments?
We don't do Citrix environments at this point. If it's a Citrix environment and used in Citrix virtualization, and it's a virtual machine that's running Windows or Linux, for Linux, we do physical, we do files and folders. If it's a virtual machine running Windows or Linux, we can capture the whole virtual machine. But specifically for Citrix or the Zen environment, we don't.
Okay. Another question came in here. What about agents? Do you use agents, or is it agentless?
We do have the agent base, so you can deploy an agent directly to the physical system or to the guest operating system of virtual machine. And we also have an agentless approach, and that's the virtual appliance. That's the virtual appliance for VMware. So you deploy the virtual appliance for VMware into your VMware environment. It talks to vServer, discovers your virtual machines, and then you simply indicate that you want to back up those virtual machines, and then through that virtual appliance, we will back it up. So that's the agentless approach. So we offer both agent-based as well as agentless.
Okay, awesome. Eric here, he's asking if we used Arcserve for our backups, how would I show my customers that their data is safe and secure? So he sounds like he's with a service provider. Are there some sort of reports or something like that that could be generated?
Absolutely. So to the report that I briefly showed, we do have a management portal view. That was just a single user view. We have a managed service provider view that allows you to manage multiple customers, and he can create a report that goes directly to that customer, to each of his customers, letting them know how their last evening backups have gone. And so he can generate reports. He can generate reports for all of the systems that they're protecting, or if that customer is interested in select systems, he can send the reports reflecting those systems exclusively.
Okay. A number of questions came in here about the client compatibility, backing up OS X, Macs, Solaris, Unix, Linux. What are the compatibility?
So from a physical perspective, for physical systems, we do Windows as well as Linux and Mac. When you deploy the agent, for Linux and Mac, we do files and folders only. If it's a virtual machine and you're using the agentless approach, then whether the system is running Windows or Linux, then we're able to back those up.
Okay. Okay. Another question here is about licensing. How does licensing work with Arcserve? And then what if you store your data in the cloud with Arcserve? How would you license that?
Yes, so if you only wish to do backup and restore, or the backup as a service solution, it's licensed by the cloud storage, per terabyte or per gigabyte. It's basically in chunks of terabytes, if you will. So 1, 5, 10 on up. So you're basically paying just for your the cloud storage. And if you want disaster recovery, in addition to that, you would pay for the cloud storage plus the compute in terms of how much RAM that you would need. And so you can buy increments of large, small of RAM. Okay.
And what clouds do you support for disaster recovery as a service? Is it just the Arcserve cloud?
Right now, it is just the Arcserve cloud for this UDP Cloud Direct solution. So the data is stored in data centers that are managed and operated by Arcserve.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about, since you run your own cloud and you store all this data for, many customers around the world, what do you do to protect that data? I mean, how do you protect your own cloud from ransomware?
Yeah, so there's all of the backups are written to the data center. They're written to 2 share nothing silos. So we do have multiple silos. The backups are stored in an immutable state. Likewise, we have the multiple copies are stored generally within the same data center, but we also have the ability to replicate between our 2 data centers. We have one in California and one in New Jersey. And then on the back end, we continually run hashes to ensure that none of the data has changed to maintain that immutability. And so those are some of the things that we do. The shared nothing architecture, keeping multiple copies of them that go back in time. Those are some of the things that we do to ensure that data integrity is maintained.
Very cool. Very cool. And then what about if for healthcare organizations out there or companies that are affected by HIPAA, is the solution HIPAA compliant?
It is HIPAA compliant. We are HIPAA compliant, and we will sign a BAA, and for those familiar, business associate agreement to the effect that we are HIPAA compliant.
Okay. All right. And then there's a number of questions that came in about dedupe and compression.
We do some level of compression when we're transferring, but on the back end, we don't do the duplication up front, but we do some deduplication on the back end once in our data center. So there is that. We do have WAN optimization to ensure that the data is transfer optimally over the WAN. After an initial full backup, only incrementals are sent, but the deduplication is not across the multiple servers. So if you have two servers that actually have the exact same file, when you're protecting those two files, they will be sent. Both copies of those will be sent. So we don't do deduplication across the systems that we're protecting. So that's where we are right now.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, there's a ton of questions that came in. We don't have time for all those, but if you don't mind staying around and answering some of those, I'm sure the audience would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on today. For more information, visit arcserve.com. Also, check out the Arcserve resource there in your console. Keith and Stacy, thanks very much.
All right. Thank you, David.